Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be checking out a video from my guy Nalf, and this video is titled Why Germans Don't Think Like Americans. That's a very powerful title. I really don't know or understand why Germans would not think like Americans. I do know there's a lot of differences between both countries, obviously. However, humans do, think similarly in a lot of things. So the point of view that Nalf will be coming from, I don't know, but let's find out. If you guys have any recommendations, leave those in the comment section down below. Perfect. We'll click that link in the pinned comment section, and I'll check out that video as soon as possible. And if you have not seen this video by Nalf as yet, a link will be in the description and also in the pinned comment section where you can check out the original video and show some support to Nalf. Either ways, guys, thank you for watching. Without further ado, let's get right into this video.
The United States is about 28 times larger than Germany. And land is not just land. The size of a country you live in can change the way you see things. I feel like I always knew this subconsciously, but it wasn't until the other day on our app Quiver that another user made me think deeply about it. The prompt of the day was, what is something you like or admire about your home country? My answer had to do with how much I appreciate the size and different things the USA had to offer. Another user commented about how that large size could possibly affect the American mentality differences and attitudes compared to Germans. And you know what? She's right. And if you want to be a part of fun and unique conversations every day, join us on our app, Quiver. Let's get into it. So obviously Germany's layout means that people are living closer together. So there's a lot of interaction in shared spaces in Germany, like town squares, markets, or beer gardens, people living very close together. Germans are just used to being around other people. And they've got these kind of unspoken and some of them spoken and literal laws, these rules, to keep things running smoothly. For example, things like quiet hours. It's about keeping the peace when everyone's packed together into small spaces. In the US, space is not an issue at all. Homes are bigger, roads are bigger and wider. People expect a lot more personal space, as I've talked about on this channel many times. Oh, poor Annie.
I'll sleep up top. No, I'm up here.
We go lankies up top. That's why Americans can seem super individualistic. This also might be why we Americans have the stereotype of being pretty loud.
We are going into town right now. We are going into town right now.
A lot of times there's a lot of space in between the other person that we're talking to. You want to step outside on your porch and say hi to your neighbor Bob across the street where there's kind of a lot of space, so you got to talk loud. Hey Bob, how's it going? And then you just get kind of accustomed to always communicating loudly.
Yeah, that's a huge fact. I can't lie to you. This is a good point in terms of comparison with Germans and Americans. I do believe that it is very controllable. The situation is very controllable. So if you're actively thinking to speak louder, you will be able to do that. And if you're actively thinking to speak lower, it's possible. But I do believe that easily, because of the environment that you're in, it can easily allow for you to raise your voice a lot more. See, I'm more of a loner person. I'm the not only child, but by the time I was of a certain age, my sister is already in university, so on and so forth. So a lot of the times growing up, I was by myself. So I'm not one of the loudest people. I can get loud, but I'd say I'm medium in my humble opinion, because there are a lot more people out there who are very much louder than I am. So and plus, I think I'm a very mindful person. So I think that also affects the reason why I'm not the loudest, because I'm very mindful, because I know that loud behaviors and obnoxious things can actually affect me when somebody else does it. So I guess because I'm considerate in a sense, maybe that's why I'm also not the loudest person in the world. But I must say, this is a very good point in my humble opinion.
You can do 2 rebis max.
There has to be a limit if it's
2 rebis max.
Because Germany is smaller and more centralized, they have got this culture where rules and regulations are just a part of life. You've heard me talk about this quite a bit, whether it's recycling, it's healthcare, or it's infrastructure. Germans expect the government to step in and make things work efficiently. It's like they trust the system to keep everything running fairly and smoothly. However, in the United States, things are a bit different. mean, the sheer size of the country means that there's a lot of regional autonomy. Each state in the U.S. has kind of its own way of doing things. State laws are very important, and people are often skeptical of the federal governments, that's the national government, stepping in. Americans really like the value of individual rights, so you'll see a lot more debates about things like healthcare or even gun ownership.
So I think these huge, vast areas of lands and these people that are living in pretty isolated situations where there's, miles and miles between them and the next person, you oftentimes find these type of people to be pretty libertarian.
It's a good thing you did today. You broke a rule. It shouldn't have been a rule in the first place. You did it for the right reasons. Thanks.
Who really want government to back off. They want to live their own life, be left alone. I'm also surprised that kind of libertarian movement is not bigger in Germany. Germany is a country that has suffered from 2 totalitarian governments in the 20th century. Yet, kind of this libertarian attitude does not really seem to be prominent. I know there is technically a political party, the FDP, that's kind of leaning sort of that direction, but I think libertarian attitudes are much more prevalent in the United States.
Look, in talking about these 2 different countries, Germany, the United States, well, sometimes it doesn't matter at all where you are in the world. That's especially if you want to access certain things on the internet. In Germany, of course, everything is close together. The transportation system is super efficient. For the most part, of course, Deutsche Bahn has had its woes in recent memory. But you've got these trains running everywhere. You've got trams in the cities and of course, the Autobahn that's connecting the entire country. And it's not crazy at all to think about traveling from one end of Germany to the entire opposite end of Germany by train in a single day. I mean, you can go from a major city in the south, Munich, all the way up to a major city in the north, Hamburg, on the train in a half day. Imagine trying to do that with major cities on 2 different sides of the United States. You could take a train.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen.
From New York to LA, yeah, have fun. That's gonna be about 3 days, and it's gonna be way more expensive than just flying. Public transit, which people in Europe do like to criticize the United States for not really having public transportation systems or very limited public transportation systems. It does exist, but it's limited to the big cities. New York, for example, has a good public transportation system. But in most places, of course, the car is the go-to. People that take long road trips, people fly domestically. This is oftentimes a big criticism that Europeans have of Americans, that we take all of these domestic flights. Well, in Europe...
Yeah, that's real life. Just to go to a different state, you're like, I would just fly. It's real life. Like, even as I speak, I'm trying my best to change, but it's hard because I live in North Finland, right? And to get out of Finland, I have to go back to South Finland, and I can take the train, but the issue that I have is that it takes so long, right? Like 14 hours just to get down to South Finland. It's like, oh my gosh, right? And it's an overnight train. It's like, you get on the plane, it's like, pew, pew, pew. So I'm trying to break that habit, but it's hard to break.
Europe, you can take the train or you can drive 3 hours and be in a different country, in a different culture. For me,
crazy.
to visit my brother in Los Angeles from Portland, am I going to drive there? It's like an 18-hour drive. No, I'm going to take a flight 2 hours because it is just that much more practical. It's also cheaper. The size of Germany also makes environmental issues feel a bit more urgent, I would say. Space is limited, so things like recycling and renewable energy are just kind of more a part of the culture in Germany. Cities are designed to be walkable with bike lanes, pedestrian zones, and having, like I said, efficient public transportation. A lot of it is about sustainability. But in the US, there's kind of this sense of abundance. I mean, there's way more space, there are more resources, so this urgency that you see in Europe surrounding environmental issues and attitudes, you don't often see or don't see as much in the United States. You see big suburbs, you see people totally dependent on cars, you see domestic flights.
Yeah, I think because it's going to take a while for the United States to be affected by this because it's so huge and there's so much of the United States that has not even been, I'm not going to say discovered because that's not the right word, but habited inhabited. Yeah, I think that's the word. So, like, if you go on a long road trip in the United States, you'll see that a lot of places are like literally empty, and you can literally start a whole development right there, and you know, things would be nice and dandy, easy.
Kind of reflects this mindset. History and identity. Germany's smaller size and its central location right in the middle of Europe have made it into kind of the crossroads of cultures and conflicts. German history is everywhere. Castles, cathedrals, monuments that remind people of their shared past. That's why Germans tend to be so reflective and connected to their heritage, in my opinion. The US, on the other hand, it is kind of all about expansion and reinvention and innovation. The idea that the frontier is a big part of the American story. It's kind of so ingrained into the American ethos. It's less about history and more about moving forward. So Americans are always looking to the future, which is exciting, of course, on one hand, and you get a lot of technological advancements, but sometimes it can feel like we overlook the past a little bit. So
No, it's not a little bit. It's a majority bit. In the United States, the past is overlooked like tremendously. Like American history is just not, you know, as important as European history. Like it's just not, dude. Like, when someone even, like, let's say a European speaks about the United States, they don't even talk about the history of the United States. And I'm talking about 1776 and beyond that. Prior to that, I shouldn't say beyond, because beyond is after, right? Prior to 1776 and 1776. Nobody talks about anything, you know, outside of things after that. It's crazy. And the truth is, most people talk about just, like, you know, the hot topics, like the politics, the food, you know, clothing, the celebrities, but nobody really talks about American history. But with Germany, the history is very much significant. Once you talk about Germany, the history comes into play immediately.
This one is a little bit of a fun one. How people think about time and distance. In Germany, where everything is pretty close, a 1-hour commute might feel like a big deal. You know, Germans, of course, love punctuality and efficiency, and German systems are built just around that. Being late isn't rude, it's unthinkable. In the United States, people are much more used to traveling longer distance. A 2-hour drive to see friends, this is totally normal. This is totally doable within a day, even to go 2 hours there and 2 hours back. You talk to your average German, they're gonna think that's crazy. They are not gonna want to do that. If they're driving 2 hours, they are staying at least a night, probably more. Time for Americans feels a little bit more flexible because honestly, the distances are just so much bigger. And I think this could explain why Americans can seem a little bit more relaxed about punctuality. Like, not me personally. Me personally, I have that German punctuality in me, and I despise when people are late. But I do think that this maybe could be a theoretical explanation for why Americans are not necessarily known to have the same rigorous punctuality that Germans have. It's not that Americans don't care, it's just that things like traffic or long commutes are just a part of life. I mean, if you're living in Los Angeles and you show up late to the office, okay, yeah, they're going to be mad, but people are going to understand the traffic in LA is insane, and you have no other option but to take a car. So that is why maybe there's a little explanation there. If you've got any other differences that you...
I agree. Maybe that has something to do with it, because the reality is if you drive for a long time, anything can happen and you can easily be late for anything. So I think that is a thing as well. And I think the infrastructure in Germany is very punctual, and because of that, that automatically will allow for people to expect you as well to be punctual. You got the Autobahn, you got all of these places where you're probably not going to experience a lot of traffic, right? And I do believe that if somebody is late because of traffic, no one would be mad in Germany. That's my opinion, right? As long as something was said. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video. I'm out of here. Peace.